Happy Friday. We've got a great episode of Locked On Blue Devils coming your way today as we've reached the end of another week. We're getting into off-season mode with this Duke men's basketball team. Is anybody going to make a decision? We're just waiting and waiting and waiting.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on Friday, April 11th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. We talk a whole lot about Duke men's basketball, especially now that the season has come to a close. We're recapping that Final Four exit for the Blue Devils, trying to put into perspective the 35-4 overall record in the weeks to come. We'll dive into our individual player end-of-year reviews like we've done each season previously here with Locked On Blue Devils. But right now, we got to focus on these decisions that are looming for the Duke basketball roster, and who better to have those conversations with than longtime friend of the program, Jordan Mann, is going to be back with us here on today's show. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free. Wherever it is that you get your podcast, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. We love 5-star written reviews. It's 5-star Friday, so let's give some shout-outs later to those who have left us those 5-star reviews. Go ahead and also watch us each and every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like these videos, share it with your friends as we continue to grow our Locked On Blue Devils audience. Here he is, Jordan Mann, with us on the program. He was there at the Final Four, seeing Duke's season fall apart with his own very eyes in the building there. And man, I know that now we're officially 6 days removed from that game taking place. Tomorrow will mark 1 week. Still just doesn't feel real that the season is over and that Duke wasn't the last team standing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been 6 days now that you say that. God, I don't even know where to begin, JJ. It was a great experience going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Vibes were great until vibes were not. I mean, that's just kind of, if you ask any Duke fan that was there, it was a fun week. And then the last 2 minutes happened in the game. And then you're just scratching your head the next 48 hours before you fly back out of San Antonio. It's like, what just happened? I stayed obviously till this past Wednesday. I was there for a long time, but I watched the national championship game of Florida and Houston, and the whole time there, it's just like, how is Duke not playing in this game right now?
Yeah, I felt that same way. I know many people did too, where it was just like, man, this was our game. This was our year. This was our opportunity to get it done. And for Duke to play their worst 10 minutes of basketball at the most inopportune time of the season, just terrible. I mean, just one made shot in those last 10 minutes. We had that Cooper Flagg three-pointer with under 3 minutes to go, and then that was it. And to see kind of the older guys on the team not play their best down the stretch, that hurt. You've got the Kaman Malawach being, minus 20 in the plus-minus department with 0 rebounds to his name. The Duke bench had a season-low 4 points scored by the Duke bench, all of them by a guy who's really using just one arm right now in Malik Brown. I mean, you hear all of those things. What is it that still stings the most about the way that Final Four game played out?
Honestly, I mean, out of those things, Malawach not getting a rebound in this 21 minutes. I mean, you're 7-2. I know off the court stuff was happening right around tip-off during the game, but at the end of the day, like when you're in between those lines, like one rebound, that just kind of was – that's just what it was for Duke as a team. And I'm picking on Malawach because he had 0 rebounds, but Duke gave up 18 offensive rebounds and had 21 defensive rebounds. That was the game. I don't care what anybody else says. That statistic right there was why Duke lost the game. I saw the stat. I don't know what's in front, what it was, but basically said teams that led in these categories were like 350-0 leading up to this game, but they left out rebounding. I mean, that's the reason why Duke lost the game. But yeah, look, it was just Duke. What stings the most, JJ, is Duke was so good defensively all year. And when it got crunch time in the last 8 minutes, Duke just started blowing simple switches.
Yeah.
And they could, on top of not getting rebounds, Duke was up 6 with 37 seconds left. And when Sharp hit that 3 to cut it to 3, before everything started going haywire, It was just a simple switch that was supposed to happen between Sion James and Cooper Flagg. Flagg stayed with the ball handler rather than switching with Sion, and then sharp pump fake to get Cooper flying out of the way, and then he hits a 3 to cut at the 3. Duke switched that all year. And it was just that simple mistake that happened a few times throughout the game, which is why Houston got back in the game. But that little thing right there just completely hurt Duke, and it burned Duke.
Yeah, I found it. The only team in an NCAA tournament game with the higher field goal percentage, more free throw attempts, more assists, fewer turnovers, more steals than their opponent, and yet still lose 335-0, and now won because Duke has managed to pull that off. Not too fun.
It's not great, but obviously they're leaving out the rebounding aspect of it because that was the whole reason Houston was in the game. And look, credit to Houston. Like, as Duke fans, obviously we want to say it's a fluke, and I do want to say for Duke standards, it's a fluke. But also Houston has done this all year, or did this all year. I know they blew a double-digit lead in the championship game, but when they played either at Kansas or neutral against Kansas, they're down 6 with 17 seconds left and forced overtime in that game and won in overtime. Yeah. So, like, this team, that Houston team was so resilient all year and have done stuff like that throughout the year, and it just sucked that Duke was the team that blew coverages on defense, turned the ball over like Tyrese Proctor dribbling off his leg when Duke's up 7 with 1:40. If you don't dribble off your leg there, you're 1, you get 30 more seconds off the clock, and 2, you get a shot up, we hope. So it's just like those little things, man. Just really, Duke hurt themselves. That's what it was.
Inbounding the basketball was a struggle. I mean, all of it. There were weird, they've got a technical foul that was called against Houston, swiping over none of those things ever happen, it feels like. And you feel like, okay, that's our break. We'll be able to survive this. Knippel makes the free throw, and that was the last point Duke made in a 70-67 loss. What about Knippel having just 9 shot attempts?
Yeah, I wish that we would have gotten him more involved in the second half. Need to go back and watch the film, but when I watched it on the rewatch, like him being so aggressive in the first half and being the guy that got the looks, he deserved to have more shot attempts.
Yeah,
I told you all year, and same with Jared McCain last year. It needed to be 10 or more shots a game for Knippel, and you see Duke lost, he had 9, and I just felt like he deserved the ball more looks. Because especially the ACC tournament run where he had to be the guy for Duke, it kind of gave him that next level. And you saw that through the year, but when Flagg was down and it was Knippel's team basically to run stuff and score with, he looked comfortable with it. And I wish that instead of going to Flagg, where Flagg knocked down some threes and obviously had a really good game, like on the box score, but he settled for a couple mid-range shots. He passed up in 2 threes, settled for tough middies, forced a layup, and trying to think of another play there. But it just felt like we were trying to force the issue again with Flagg a little bit too much, and that's kind of what happened with Kentucky and Kansas. So I would like to see Knippel be a little more – I would have loved to see him be a little more involved and have the ball in his hands. But I will say, with that being said, he did have the layup attempt that was blocked when Duke was up 6, I think it was, leading up to that three-pointer I was just talking about. The ball was in his hands to go make a play, and he got it blocked. So, at the same time, he did get his chance as well.
And Houston just made a play at the end of it to walk away with a victory there. John Shire, his 3rd year as a head coach, ends with a 35-4 record, but no appearance in the national championship game. No national title making its way back to Durham. Still just hurts. So much to say. All right, we'll take our first break here on today's program. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Jay Mann when Locked On Blue Devils continues here in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. It is tax season, tax day very, very close. And the taxes are waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. And then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with the TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com/guarantees. TurboTax is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Also want to make the note that only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com. Again, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we're moving forward here with J-Man talking about the end of the season for the Duke basketball team, and now we're in the waiting phase where we're trying to figure out what decisions, what players are going to be back as we go into next year, and I feel like it should be soon. We've been saying that all week pretty much, J-Man, that any day now, we're going to start to hear some of these draft declarations, possible entries into the transfer portal, but it's been a week full of silence on the Duke front.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not much I can tell you that I know. The one thing that I will say that I do know, I'll break the news on yours, is, well, it's not anything worth really noting, but NC State is like trying to poach Isaiah. I was told that before the tournament. Vibes were still good though with Isaiah 6 days ago or a week ago when I was driving cross country.
Yeah.
So I do know like now there's even more smoke, but I don't know much more than that, but I do know like they have reached out. NC State has reached out to Isaiah or people around Isaiah. I don't even know if they reached out to him personally, but that's the one that I'm like, Duke's going to have out of the three guys, Akale Foster, Tyrese Proctor, and Isaiah Evans. I think two is the realistic expectation Duke's going to have. And so now it's just like, okay, who do you prefer the two out of the three? Who's the odd man out in this situation? And obviously, I think everybody would agree Tyrese Proctor is certainly a guy that you want to keep unanimously. So then it comes down to, do you want Caleb Foster or Isaiah Evans? That's just what the hypothetical I'm thinking of. And then obviously portal stuff, who knows? But for right now, I do know like NC State has reached out to Isaiah's camp, and for right now, the time being, I think Duke's okay as we're recording this. But I will say, I think there's three guys: it's Proctor, Caleb Foster, and Isaiah Evans for two spots, and that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, when you look at Isaiah Evans, that's obviously a guy that everybody's going to have their eyes on to see what decision he makes. I really want him back for Duke next season. I think he's just such a versatile weapon with the outside shooting. Played just 13.7 minutes per game officially, posting 6.8 points per game on 41% shooting from three-point range. And looking at the numbers a little deeper, of his 183 shot attempts, 149 of them were from three-point range. That is 81% of his shot attempts were from three. And I'm saying all of this because also being factored into the equation here is every big board out there is now listing Isaiah Evans as one of their top 50, top 60 guys to look at for the next level. So coming back to the college game, there are a couple of things I'm sure that Slim would like to improve on with his game in particular. But the NBA is still, saying, hey, maybe we'll take a feeler on this guy.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely going to come back to college, especially with what the hell they're paying in NIL these days,
sure.
where you're going to make double what you'd make if you were the 40th pick in the draft.
In the second round, sure.
Yeah, if you're the first pick of the second round, you're still getting paid more to come back to college, wherever that is. So I think he'll be back, and there's just a lot of things with him that you want to see progress next year. And he's more than capable of doing it. We've saw what he can do catching shooting. Now next year is, can you put the ball on the floor and get to the rim more often? I know he did some through this year, but it's easier to do that when teams are running off the line because you're so lethal from three.
Yeah.
Can you break down a guy and go get a bucket, mid-range, obviously the defense, and then can you impact winning without scoring? That's kind of like what I loved about Con Knipple this year is, yes, he would have an 11-point game on 3 of 8, but he would have 6 rebounds and 3 assists and no turnovers, or he would have a crucial steal in the game. Like he impacted winning without scoring. Can anybody that's going to come back next year do the same thing that Duke needs them to do that, didn't have a very strong role this year, and that's Caleb Foster and Isaiah Evans. And so with Isaiah, it's just like, hey, your shot's not falling, can you still give us good minutes?
Yeah, and I mean the shot was falling. To his credit, 41% from three is nothing to be upset about when you're looking at it. But kind of hearing those numbers again, it does put it in perspective, man. 82% of his shot attempts were three balls. I mean, you knew what he was going to do if the ball was coming his way.
Oh yeah, he was out there pulling.
Yeah.
And that's his role for this team was perfect. It was like, hey, we have a flamethrower coming off the bench, and he can make your night a living hell. And he did that against Auburn, and obviously that was the biggest game for him. But he also did that late in the season in a few game stretches where it's like, okay, this guy is coming off the bench, and even started a couple games to where he's putting up 14 or 15 points. And can he do that like consistently next year? I'm not going to say he's going to walk in and be a 15-point per game scorer, but can there be a higher floor to his game where it's not, hey, it's 2 points or no points in 8 minutes. It would be 6 points in 18 minutes next year. You know what I mean? So can the floor rise as the ceiling continues to rise with him? Because we know what he can do offensively on the catch and shoot. Just want to see him take an extended role next year.
Yeah, as the week progresses, I do think people are hearing more positive things about the likelihood that Caleb Foster could be returning to Duke next season. Still kind of up in the air, though, with the decision he would make. And obviously, he had an up and down year with the Duke basketball squad. But let's focus on Tyrese Proctor, who we've got the scholarship chart up here for our viewers on YouTube. If he returns, he'd be one of the two seniors on the squad with Malik Brown. And of course, we are expecting transfers to come in. We're not expecting a sophomore Cooper Flagg by any means, but until it happens, we've got it outlined there for you. What do you make of Proctor and the decision that lies ahead for him?
I mean, it's a tough feel for him. It's kind of the same what we just talked about with Isaiah about the projections with him in the NBA. I haven't seen any recently, but I would say Proctor is a fringe late first, early second rounder, and you can get paid good money to come back and be a fourth-year starting point guard at Duke. You can be, in general, in college basketball with Final Four experience, Elite Eight experience, won the ACC his freshman year, and I know the times Duke has lost against NC State Elite Eight last year, he was terrible. Like he would tell you that, and then against Houston, he was not good, and Duke needed him to be good, and so maybe he has that hunger to come back to like, hey, I've come up short twice now. Next year, I want to go to national championship game, redeem himself ultimately on the biggest stage with the team that he's been with through thick and thin, and be the leader of that team.
Yeah. I'd welcome him back with open arms.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, as talented as this Duke roster was, JJ, guard play wins you championships, and it can lose you championships. That's kind of what we saw what happened with Duke against Houston. Houston's guard made shots, and Duke's didn't, and that was the key of the game. But to go back to Proctor, I would love to have him back. That'd be the biggest get in the offseason for Duke, would be a senior Tyrese Proctor coming back rather than him leaving and filling that void with a transfer.
All right, so let's take a look at this Duke team. Obviously, we're expecting Flagg, Knipple, Malawach to head off to the NBA. Those guys are projected lottery picks at this point. When you look at the freshman class coming in, still really early on this, but you've got the Boozer twins, who the news today is that their high school coach has been hired by Jay Lucas to be a full-time assistant at Miami. The Boozers continue to reiterate and reaffirm their commitment to Duke. But, hey, good pull there from Jay Lucas, getting him on your coaching staff. Then you've got Shelton Henderson and Nicholas Haminia. We learned the pronunciation there from him at Nike Hoop Summit this year. The K silent there. What do you make of all these freshmen?
I mean, I know a lot about Cam, and I know Shelton Henderson plays like a Houston guy. Like he plays for the Houston Cougars with the motor that he has and how physical he is. Caden, I think there's more momentum with him, but I think that's more so through the fan base. I think he's a good player, but I'm not going to label him as a guy that's going to impact. He's going to come in and be right with Proctor in the backcourt. That's unfair to him. I need to see more from him just with my eyes. And Haminia, again, kind of the same thing. I like his game, but with these high school mixtapes these days, man, it's just so hard to really tell who's really good and then who has great highlights. So I'd like to see more run from them, like Duke does so well in the summertime of showing their open runs. There's a lot different. I know Duke's, has filtered lens to make the players look good, but you can kind of tell the tendency based off of those. So I'd rather watch that when they're at Duke rather than look up their AAU highlights and they're playing, me and you at 8 a.m. on a Wednesday, on Saturday morning. So I am high on them, though. Cam Boozer's going to be unbelievable. Henderson's going to have a great motor. And then it's just Caden Boozer and Haminia are guys that I'm going to wait and give an evaluation on once I see them more and more.
And we'll see if there's, more movement in that freshman class, see if anybody else joins the ranks for the Duke basketball team. We'll take our final break here on the show today and then start to wrap things up when we return here on Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen or your first watch here today. After our show comes to a close, make sure that you go check out the Locked On NFL Draft Show with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level. Get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to go check it all out, Locked On NFL Draft. J-Man's here with us. We're talking all things Duke basketball, as we so often do. Nate Ament will see his recruitment continue, and possibly there's an announcement that comes over the weekend. Maybe it goes into next week. Possibly this weekend we finally start to see some NBA draft decisions officially for those players for Duke declaring for the 2025 draft. And I reckon if you're Cooper Flagg, he posted on Instagram earlier this week. He was in Los Angeles. The fanfare is going to pick up for him with all these outside responsibilities and the money he's about to be able to claim at the next level. His biggest question is, who's going to win the lottery come early May? Where am I going to go be playing?
Oh, it's going to be the Hornets. It's going to be the Charlotte
We
Hornets.
hope so.
You teed me up there. You know where I was going to go with that. He's going to be Charlotte, and then he's going to be living right beside me. That's going to be great. The Flagg family's going to move right in.
That's awesome. Raise the flag there in CLT. You think, though, when you look at the other guys, we'll see 3 lottery picks for Duke? Is that what it's shaping up to look like for you?
Yeah, it'd be Flagg, Knipple, Malawach. Yeah, that would be, I don't know in that order, but I would say so, yes. I mean, they have to, money in the NIL is great and all, but Flagg's got a deal, was it Puma or New Balance? One of the New Balance that they're not going to let him come back for a year or two, which I totally understand. Then Knipple is going to have stuff, and Malawach is going to have stuff. So, those guys, they knew what it was coming into Duke. Maybe not Knipple. Maybe Knipple was like, hey, I'm going to come in and then try and bet on myself, and he did because I don't know where he was at the beginning of the year for draft boards, but it wasn't lottery.
Not this high, nowhere near.
So, shout out to him. I'm going to miss Knipple. He was on, I loved him. But he's going to do good in the league, and so will Malawach. But those 3 would definitely be lottery.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what teams draft them. We've got the NBA playoffs starting right around the corner here with several Duke guys playing strong minutes for a lot of contending teams right there at the top with Jayson Tatum as well. Man, Boston's starting to play some good basketball, and they've got a title to defend here in these upcoming weeks, man. Now a lot of Duke fans will turn their attention towards these NBA playoffs ramping up.
Yeah, I mean, look. I will not because my Hornets are I think they lose on off nights. So I will be watching the playoffs and watching Tatum obviously try and defend the NBA title from last year and try and kill the narrative of him being corny. He's the corniest guy in the league apparently. He averages 27, 7, and 7.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's averaging, but it's just funny with the narrative with him because he's a quiet guy that he's corny, but the guy can hoop, and he's one of the better players in the league on the best team, and that's pretty awesome that he is that type of dude in the league because you could be like Carolina and your best player is Harrison Barnes, who is known for being the reason why the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. So, I would much rather have a Jayson Tatum than a Harrison Barnes.
Absolutely. And now from the Duke perspective, I talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show with Brian. We're talking a lot about John Shire narratives and his coaching and whatnot. The next few weeks, get ready for every single take that's out there about J.J. Redick. 1, because he's, the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. 2, he's J.J. Redick. He's quite opinionated. And I'm ready to see. I mean, I think he's a terrific coach, Jay. And to see him kind of make these matchups within a series themselves, I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the Hornets, I know the listeners are going to love this Hornets talk, but I just remember when J.J. Redick was – the first team to reach out to him was the Hornets, and the media covers the Hornets. They would go after a podcaster, and then a week later, the Lakers are interested in him and Dan Hurley, and they're like, the Lakers, just out of the box thinking. What fantastic organization. I'm like, stop. This is why I don't like to meet. I am the host of the Big J, Little J show, and I hate Big J's. I'm the Little J for a reason. I never want to be a Big J to talk crap about JJ Redick and the Hornets. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do in the league, or what he can do in the playoffs with Luka, because he's done a fantastic job since Nico Harrison pooped down his leg and gave Luka to the Lakers for free.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see all this unravel. And then hopefully we've got back to the Duke thing. We've got some transfer portal news in the days to come. I feel like we got to wait for these decisions before it gets a little bit more serious with the targets from Duke perspective, right? Looking for the Malik Browns, the Mason Gillis, the Theon James. And to remind folks, it was a few weeks. Like, it was mid-April. Theon James didn't commit until May last year. So maybe it is going to be a little bit of time before we see some of that news.
Yeah, I mean, look, just because nothing is public does not mean Duke has not been kicking tires behind the scenes. And just because we don't know doesn't mean Duke has just been sitting on their hands. Obviously, you know that. But for people watching this, Duke's working in the back channels. Duke has a plan, and I know the number one plan is retention. Keep as many guys you can that's currently on this team, and that's the right move to make with the experience they've had. And also, look, I trust Jon Scheyer. I said that after last year when everybody had the pitchforks out because they lost in the Elite Eight to NC State. I was on this show and said that he was still arguably the best coach in the ACC. Now he's won 90 games in 3 years, the first ever to do that in college basketball history. I'm going to continue to trust him blindly. I know he knows what it takes to win basketball games behind the scenes, recruiting and coaching. So in Scheyer, I trust. I will die on that sword. And so that's just, at the end of the day, I trust him and his vision for this roster.
Yeah, not to burst your bubble, we were 32 seconds shy of win 90, but he did tie Brad Underwood and Brad Stevens at 89 for the most wins ever. So we'll claim it. It was our 90th win. We turned it off. We didn't see those last 32 seconds.
89 and a half. I'll go 89 and a half. I'll go.
So he is number one. He is number one.
He is number one to me. Tied for number one's okay.
Absolutely. And then last thing I'll say here too, thinking about, things being done behind the scenes and whatnot. I mentioned the coaching news that Miami had a little bit earlier today. Don't forget, Jay Lucas doesn't work for Duke anymore. He had a spot on that bench for Jon Scheyer. There could be some news there in the Duke front as well.
That's a good point, JJ. That needs to be something that needs to be talked about more. I know everybody is like obsessed with recruiting, and rightfully so. You want to see the guys for next year. I get it. But who's going to fill that void? Is it going to be another out of brotherhood hire, or is it going to be in-house? And again, I trust Scheyer, and I'm sure he has people in mind. It's a short list that he's probably still going over interviews with. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I trust him with his decision making, and I'm looking forward to see who he hires.
I love it. All right, man. It's so good to see you. Tell people about all the work that you do and how they can support you, man.
Yeah, Twitter's right there, J-Man's Takes. YouTube is _, where you can find the podcast, the Big J, Little J show, which is also on Apple and Spotify. Connor and I are going to record sometime this weekend. We stayed together for a week in Houston or in San Antonio, so we'll talk about that and talk about the game, obviously, but talk about all the other things that happened that weren't involved with basketball. We played in a media basketball game together. I almost pulled a Common Malawat situation where I had to get Connor to come in for me because I about just yacked all over the floor with screwdrivers the night before. So we'll talk about that on the channel. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun talking about the Big J, Little J show.
We'll talk to you again soon, man. Okay, I appreciate the time.
See you, buddy.
All right, that's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's show. Go support his work. Also support what we're doing here at Locked On Blue Devils. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcast. It's 5-Star Friday. Please go leave us a 5-star rating and written review. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.